Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 5, the Universal Order. We're going to be reading from chapter 15, King Priyavrata's Descendants. It was mid-morning. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim. Yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. It was mid-morning and the sun was high in the sky. Sutta allowed everyone to shift more into the shade of the surrounding trees. When they settled, Shaunak said, "Dear Sutta, your talks are wonderful. We were eager to know how to benefit the poor souls in Kali Yuga who cannot perform difficult sacrifices. Surely these narrations are the answers. Just hearing and remembering them saves one from all calamities. Please tell us more about the conversation between Parikshit and Shukadev, so that we may preserve this supreme knowledge for the sake of posterity." Sutta recited prayers offering obeisances to the Supreme Lord, to his spiritual teachers, and to all the compassionate devotees of the Lord. Then he resumed his narration. A snarl carried on the night air. Parikshit glanced toward the dark forest. Night predators were on the prowl, killer and killed, hunter and hunted. This was the stark reality of material life Shukadev had so vividly described. He turned his attention back to the naked sage who sat undisturbed despite the night chill and said, "Master, Bharat's history and the results of hearing about it are wondrous. Please tell me about his descendants. Were any of them as illustrious as him?" Verse 1, Shukadev said, "One of the Bharat's son, Sumati, strictly followed Rishabh's teachings and example. Unfortunately, in the age of Kali, unscrupulous people will reject the Vedic teachings and concoct this theory that he is Lord Buddha." Verse 2 to 5, Sumati had a son named Devatajit, who had a son named Devadyumna. From him came a son named Parameshthi, who had a son named Pratiha. He became a great devotee of Krishna who taught the principles of self-realization. He had 3 sons named Pratiharta, Prastota and Udgat, who were expert in performing Vedic rituals. Pratiharta had 2 sons named Aja and Bhuma. Verse 6, Shukadev listed the descendants of Bhuma until after some generations the famous king Gaya took birth. He was the best of saintly kings, a direct expansion of Lord Vishnu, fixed in pure spiritual consciousness. He appeared in order to protect the universe, fully equipped with the transcendental knowledge. He was Mahapurusha, chief among all living beings. Verse 7, King Gaya protected the citizens, ensuring that rogues would harm them, that they had sufficient food and were satisfied in every way. He would distribute lavish charity and instruct the people how to perform their duties. He strictly followed the regulations of married life, performed sacrifice, offered respect to Krishna's devotees, and practiced some pure yoga. Without false ego, he was always jubilant and free of lamentation. Although perfect in every way, he was never proud or ambitious and showed all respect to saintly persons. Verses 8 to 9, learned Puranic scholars glorify Gaya as follows: who can equal King Gaya in performing great sacrifices? As an empowered expansion of Krishna, he had every opulence and was highly intelligent and expert in Vedic knowledge. He protected religious principles, was a leader among the men and a servant of the devotees. Verse 10, in a grand ceremony, all of Daksha's honest and chaste goddess daughters, headed by Shraddha, Maitri and Daya, bathed Gaya with sanctified water. Being delighted by his exemplary behavior because of their infallible blessings and Gaya's excellent virtues, the planet Earth generously provided all the citizens' necessities, just as a cow with full udders yields ample milk. Verse 11, King Gaya had no material desires, and his spiritual desires were all fulfilled because of his performing Vedic sacrifice. Since he only fought based on religious principles, other kings happily accepted subordination to him and offered him tribute. He gave each profuse charity to the Brahmins who executed his Vedic sacrifices, that in great satisfaction they gave him 1/6 of their pious credits. Indeed, when qualified Brahmins and saintly people are honored, they bestow the benefit of their pious activities on those who worship and serve them. Parikshit said, how did King Gayas relate with lesser citizens such as merchants and laborers? He satisfied the Vaishyas with kind words and affectionate dealings, encouraging them to generate wealth. Gaya's constant sacrifices satisfied the Shudras who always enjoyed sumptuous food and charity. Verse 12, the monarch pleased not only his people but also the gods. Whenever he performed a sacrifice, he provided vast quantities of the celestial beverage Somaras. King Indra would drink so much of it at Gaya's rituals that he would become intoxicated. Even Lord Vishnu, pleased by King Gaya's pure and firm devotion to him, would come to each sacrifice and accept his offerings. Verse 13, gratifying Vishnu was the real reason he could satisfy everyone else. When you please the Supreme Lord, automatically all other beings, including Lord Brahma, are pleased and you receive all benedictions. Even though the Supreme Lord is self-satisfied, he would come to King Gaya's sacrifices and announce that he was pleased. Verses 14 and to 16, Shukadev named the descendants of Gaya for 10 generations up to a king named Viraj, who had 100 sons and one daughter. All of his sons, Satyajit was prominent. Hear this famous verse which glorifies Viraj. Because of his fame and virtue, King Viraja became famous as the jewel of Priyavrat's dynasty, just as Lord Vishnu adorns and blesses the god. And this brings us to the end of chapter 15. King Priyavrat's descendants. We will continue from lesson chapter 16 next time. Shukadev describes Jambudvipa. Wish you all a very happy Radhashtami today. Hope you all had a wonderful festival today. And we pray to Srimati Radharani that she gives us bhakti and bestows us with mercy so that we can do our rounds nicely, chant nicely, try to understand the Shastras and always stay in the association of the devotees. Hare Krishna.